It's like freshmen. We're all like in there dancing.
And he asked me for my number.
She probably tells this story a little different.
And I was like, okay, I put in Amanda.
And then I asked for her last name.
Why? How many Amandas are you gonna talk to tonight?
Why did you need my last name? How many Amandas you gonna meet? You just picking up numbers, blah, blah, blah.
So it was like red flag, red flag. I'm like, who are you?
So that's her memory of it. But I think I was just excited to get her number.
That was Genie and Amanda, two of my very good friends. And on today's episode, they're sharing their love story with us. My idea is that by hearing people's love stories and listening to them make that commitment to one another, we might actually learn something from their story. So on today's episode, join me, why don't you, while we listen to Genie and Amanda tell us their love story.
So Gene had actually found me on Facebook.
That's when like Facebook was popular. Like that was the generation. We were the friending people.
And had put something on my wall.
There was like a Notre Dame early admit or Notre Dame minority students. Okay. That's what it was.
He had found me. He got my wall and he said, hey, saying hi to a fellow domer.
Just being friendly to a fellow domer or something whack.
And we had few conversations on like Facebook of like how excited we were. His dorm was actually just walking distance from mine.
She lived across the hall from a girl I went to high school with, Abby Miller. And Abby Miller's dad was the head chef at Notre Dame.
We met at our freshman orientation weekend.
And so the first night or two at Notre Dame, they make you go to Domerfest, where they cram all the freshmen into the jack and like go dance, go do whatever.
But everyone comes out, all the freshmen.
And so I remember seeing Amanda next to Abby, and I was like, I'm gonna go over there. And I think I did some sly shit. I think I walked by, so I hit the periphery so that Abby would go, "Hey, Eugene."
Hey, Eugene, and like calls over this like tall man. I'm like, I was like, do I know you?
So I tried to orchestrate, being cool.
Yeah, but that was the first time I met him in person, and I put two and two together.
And I think, it's like freshmen. We're all like in there dancing. I think that was like stanky leg and like early twerk days. So I was like, I'm gonna go over there.
And he asked me for my number.
She probably tells this story a little different. I think she thinks I was some like confident, sly ass player.
And I was like, okay, I put in Amanda.
And then I asked for her last name.
And I'm like, why? How many Amandas are you going to talk to tonight?
Why did you need my last name? How many Amandas you going to meet? You just picking up numbers, blah, blah, blah.
So it was like red flag, red flag. I'm like, who are you trying to talk to? Or what's your goal here?
So that's her memory of it. But I think I was just excited to get her number. But yeah, so I saw her on Facebook, saw her at Domerfest. Stinky legged my way over there, said what's up to Abby, got in with Amanda, got her number, got told off for asking for her last name.
So he's like, hey, do you actually want to go to church with me? My dad is a preacher and we'll be preaching tomorrow. And that's how the number got introduced.
My grandma literally lived right down the street, down Notre Dame Avenue. So I could pick up her car and go to church.
But it was really tender how our friendship started.
So she would go to church with me. I also directed the gospel choir, and she led choirs at her own church growing up. And so we'd kick it on Fridays, and then she'd go to church with me. And so like all that's involved with that, like the musical aspect of it, like sitting, playing the piano and singing and sharing space, and then going to church and kind of like being vulnerable and like engaging in this sort of like more transcendent spiritual stuff. Like we got to be, I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but we did stuff outside of school that like was probably the first inklings of, oh, we're very compatible.
There wasn't a real like, oh, right away I started thinking of him in that way. It wasn't right away. I think it came more so with just how our friendship unfolded.
You remember how like stressful college was, like in retrospect, like you're trying to figure out your stuff. I remember going to church one time and just like the right song played, and like sometimes you just like just like let yourself cry. I remember her being next to me when I was in one of those states, and though like I remember feeling like safe next to her.
And he had just quickly become like a trusted friend.
It was compatible. Like you didn't feel like you had to perform or be or do anything. We were friends for a while.
I think those are the moments where I'm like, wow, we're having honest conversations and we're, playing music and singing, and which is kind of like nerdy and weird now that I look back at it. But I was like, we actually did spend a lot of time there. And
we were friends first. We had a blast together first before putting like labels on it.
So we're young. We're 18, 19 years old. We didn't become like officially boyfriend girlfriend until spring semester.
I think the first like concern was like splitting up after college.
I made the decision to go and take an opportunity to do Teach for America in Phoenix, Arizona.
And I knew I wanted to come out to LA to go to film school.
You have this fairy tale understanding of what life will look like after college, and that is awesome job, get married, and I was like, and that didn't happen right away for us.
So she was doing that in Phoenix, and then that's where I met you. We were out in LA doing film school. I don't know if you remember this, but they were basically like,
Look to your left, look to your right. Only one of you will make it out of this program successfully.
it's gonna suck if you have a relationship. You might want to end it. Like, we want you to focus on film. It's gonna suck.
Right now, you should all go back home and break up with any significant others. You will have no time for that person.
All of us are divorced. Just, come make art.
And I think that was just the first, inkling of how stressful and demanding that program was going to be for him.
We would start a movie at the same time. Like, we'd call and hit play at the same time, and so we'd have some semblance of shared experience.
Whenever my first spring break was, I didn't think we were gonna make it past that.
And like I said, especially when you're stressed doing other stuff, like all those hormones, experiences, emotions, like kind of like build up to like really kind of like create some friction.
He came and visited me in Phoenix. I don't even know what it was, but it was awful. We went to like some like kiddie amusement park or something, and it was awful. I'm like, what are we even doing?
I just remember not being like aligned.
He wakes up out of a nap, I think, like screaming.
I woke up screaming.
I was crying alone in I think my bathroom.
And like she comforted me. Like we had to speak.
And it was like this, okay, do we want to be with one another? Can we commit? What is it that's missing now that will have to change in order for us to move forward?
I'm conflict averse. I don't want to talk about it. I'll choke it up. I'm gonna put it up. And the flip side is that like I'll get mad if you don't realize how upset I am. My kind of closed offness really like rubbed up against Amanda. I mean, Amanda's the bravest, strongest, most articulate person I've ever met. I've learned a lot from her. And so our conflict resolution skills and language were different. And so I had to learn how to grow up and like put things in words and kind of get over myself.
It was that moment where like, I'm not going to give up on what we have been to one another, and almost we weren't ready to accept defeat.
She's who I wanted to do life with.
But that was the moment where like, okay, we're committed and we're going to have to build.
After Phoenix, she came out and just like it's such a leap of faith.
I think I had like 3 jobs at some point that first year. We were living like in Little Tokyo.
As they say, she's a real one. She's the realist.
I am of the mindset that I'm going to pursue love, and I'm going to pursue what makes me happy. And that meant my relationship with Gene.
There's no thing, there's no clock, there's no chime, there's no like thing that pops up on your shoulder. Like nothing says start. There's no right time or whatever. But it just so happened that we were going to take a family trip and pass through the Grand Canyon. And so I didn't have that money yet.
It was around Thanksgiving break.
My brother-in-law, now her sister's husband, I don't know how we got off to the side, but I must have brought it up to him. I think I needed some big bro energy. And I was like, man, I want to do it. I'm just waiting on this check. And he's like, just do it. And I was like, I need the money. He's like, I'll lend it to you. So he lent me the money to like get this ring. And it was literally that like just jump point. Like nothing's going to tell you to do it. And I was like, all right, the time's right. We're in front of her family. I know her family's important to her.
He had, I guess, sought the permission of my parents before asking.
Her dad was in my room, and I went in there. I said, hey man, I want to show you something. And I showed him the ring, and he goes, cool. And I was like, all right, bye. We'll do it today.
So to ask in front of my family was really special, because I want them to be like, he's not just my husband. He's my family. He's gonna be our family.
And then I got on one knee and propose, and everybody at the Grand Canyon, like the other people, were like, ah.
And I was completely surprised.
I wanted to do it, and things conspired around that. And so like there's no right time. You just got to like do it.
There's all these components of who do I want to spend the rest of my life with? Who do I want to have a family with? That was important to me and to him. And then it's like, well, and 3, like, we really enjoy one another. And I think that's also the chemistry or whatever, I don't know how you would translate that, but it's like those all were elements of what it takes for me to be in love.
I feel like that's like something that's like switched to me lately too. Is just like, what is your conception of time? Like, do things move? Are things moving regardless of whether you're acting or not, or do you drive things? And I feel like in my life, like at this stage, I'm switching to like, I have to drive things. And I feel like some of that like consciousness was at play with the proposal too. It's like, no one tells you. It's like, you have to do the driving.
All right, that concludes this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned something through their story. I certainly did. Also, too, I want to thank Genie and Amanda for joining me. I sent out a blast to a couple of married friends of mine asking if they want to be on it. Yes was not the normal response. But Genie and Amanda, they said, when do you need us there? When do you want to do it? And I just can't thank them enough. To have friends like that is quite the blessing.